Hello and welcome to another edition of Conspirator Brock's Pull List. This is my pull list for the week of June 8th, 2016. Second week of the Rebirth titles, and DC's rolling those out. Also, we start to get Civil War one-shots this week. A lot of books on the pull list. A lot of variants this week. Yeah. Hopefully the variants slow down a little bit, because it's a lot. So let's get right into it. First up on the pull list is Action Comics 957. Yes, you heard that right, 957. DC's gone back to the actual numbering on Action Comics as well as Detective. So I'm curious to see where Superman goes from here. I'm excited for Action. Action and Detective were two of the titles in the New 52 that I didn't think they needed to renumber, but they did. I'm glad they've gone back. So we'll see what is going on with Superman in Action Comics this week. Next up is Aquaman Rebirth #1. I'm curious to see where Abnett takes Aquaman. The New 52 Aquaman that Johns wrote and then other creative teams took over was a solid book. I enjoyed it throughout all the run. There were weak spots, but overall it was a good run. So I'm curious to see where Aquaman goes from here on out. So fingers are crossed. Next up, we have Constantine the Hellblazer #13. Book's okay. I enjoy it for the most part. It's going to be ending soon and then being rebirthed, so we'll see how that goes. Next up is Detective Comics #934. Back to the real numbering on this book. I'm curious to see how it plays out. It looks like it's like a Batwoman team book with Batman and all these other characters. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. Next up is Earth 2 Society #13. We were actually shorted all of our copies of 12. I managed to get a copy from Elusive Comics, our local store, a local store near us. That's awesome shop. So I'm caught up. We did not get restocked on that, so that's a little bit of a problem. But Earth 2 Society is okay. It's not great. It's not as good as the Earth 2 stuff that James Robinson was writing, but it's interesting enough that I keep reading it. Next up, we have The Fix #3 from Nick Spencer, and yes, that is a just bleep out bar for boobies. So Fix has been good. I've been enjoying it. First two issues were really good, so I'm curious to see where it goes. Nick Spencer's done an amazing job on Ant-Man, and this his own work from Image of the Fix has been good too. Cap, not so much. Next up, we have Flash Rebirth #1. The Flash series was just great from the New 52, so curious to see again where this new creative team takes Flash and where Flash is going to be in this new Rebirth universe. Next up is 4001 AD Bloodshot #1 special. I've read a couple of the 4001 AD books and I've enjoyed it. It's a great kind of series or line-wide crossover event thing, but they're not crossing over specifically with titles. They're coming out with one shot, so I like that, and 4001's been really good. So next up we have Harley Quinn and her Gang of Harleys #3. Looks like 3 of 6, so the miniseries is about halfway there. I'm curious to see where it goes. I've been enjoying the first 2 issues. Harley Quinn's just a fun book to read, and the miniseries that spawned out of it has been entertaining. Next up, we have a thick book and $8, but honestly, it's a really good, solid read. The weakest title in here is still good. It's still fun to read and it's still cool, and that's Legends of Tomorrow #4 comes out. Like I said, 1, 2, and 3, great books. I thought the Sugar and Spike story would be the weakest, and it somewhat is, but it is very entertaining, so there's that. Next up we have Ninjax #16. It's actually, I think, Ninja K is how you're supposed to pronounce it, kind of like it's not Weapon X, it's Weapon 10. Ninjak has been good. I've been enjoying it, so I'm really excited to see where it goes. Next up is a title I've been really looking forward to from DC, #1 that comes out, and it's the Wacky Raceland, Hanna-Barbera's Wacky Raceland. Just really cool looking stuff, kind of Mad Max looking just transformations of these Hanna-Barbera characters. So yeah, that looks like a ton of fun. And then finally on my pull list, not including variants, is Wonder Woman Rebirth, number 1. Greg Rucka's back to writing Wonder Woman. I never got a chance to read his prior Wonder Woman run, but I've heard good things, so I'm really excited to see where Wonder Woman goes with Rucka at the helm. So next up is a ton of variants, so I'll just go over those. There was a variant for Action Comics number 957, and that's Superman flying down. Pretty cool. Next up was Aquaman Rebirth number 1. Had one of those variants where they're kind of standing on the logo. Awesome stuff. Detective had one. Has like a purplish Batman on the cover. Cool stuff. Probably the weakest variant was the Flash Rebirth variant. I've still picked it up, but that art's not the best. And then Wacky Raceland had a bunch of variants, and I grabbed all of those. There's the Johnson one with the like rocket-looking car, and then we got one of the cockpit of one of the racers going. Then there's this kind of cool one with kind of a Mad Maxy car down there on the bottom. And then there, of course, there was the adult coloring book variant cover. I don't know if there was a blank cover. There was a blank cover for Future Quest and for Scooby-Doo. So I'm curious as to why there was no blank cover for Wacky Raceland, but we'll see. And then last up was a Wonder Woman Rebirth variant cover, and that one's just awesomeness. So that's it for my pull list. Those are the titles that I bring home to put in my collection. Yada, yada, yada. All that fun stuff. A lot of variants are going to be coming out with that Rebirth stuff. So, yeah. I'm going to have to tighten the belt on the comic pull lists here soon. But hopefully I'll be able to snag a bunch of those variants. So be on the lookout for those. Yeah. Alright, on to the read list. We have the first one up for Civil War II, The Amazing Spider-Man number 1. Curious to see what this one-shot does. There's another one-shot with Hercules, but I don't remember what it was called. And we didn't get too many copies. I'll read it on Thursday if it's still there. Next up is Empress number 3 by Mark Millar. The first 2 issues were okay, so I'm going to keep going with that one. Yeah. Pretty much that's it. Next up is an amazing, amazing book, and everybody should be reading it, and that's Star Wars Darth Vader number 21. Only 4 issues left. It's only going to issue 25, so I'm curious to see how it ends, but it's been really, really amazing stuff, and if you haven't checked out the Star Wars Darth Vader, you should. Next up, we have Star Wars Poe Dameron number 3. I've enjoyed Poe Dameron so far. It's great, great stuff. It's cool to see him in action, so I'm going to check that out. Next up is Thunderbolts number 2. I wasn't too impressed with the first issue. I'm going to give issue 2 a shot, but if it doesn't snag my attention, it's out of here. And then finally on the read list is The Vision number 8. Tom King's been knocking it out of the park with this one, and if you haven't been reading Vision, I don't know where you've been. It's an awesome, awesome book, and it should be on everybody's read or pull list. A couple titles that I did not pick up this week because we didn't have enough copies, but hopefully I will read on Thursday. And that's Birthright number 16. I'm actually not going to read that. I trade weight that one, so I'm probably going to start taking it off my read list, but it will be there when the trade comes out. And then we have Daredevil number 8. We have Green Lantern Core Edge of Oblivion number 6. House of Penance number 3. And Renato Jones 1% number 2. So yeah, I didn't get a chance to do a DC comic books or Rebirth review of the last of the titles that came out last week, which was Batman, Superman, Green Arrow, and Green Lanterns. So sorry about that, but I'm going to actually talk about them here. Out of the 4 titles that came out from Rebirth last week, Green Arrow was the weakest, but it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. The one that surprised me the most was probably the Superman one. Peter Tomasi did an amazing job with that title, and I'm really excited to see more of Superman. And this is the first time in a long time that I've actually been kind of excited for a Superman comic. The Green Lanterns book was co-written by Johns, and it was good. It really had kind of that feel that Johns has given to Green Lantern over the years, and I'm really, really excited to see where it goes. Green Lantern had been stagnant after Johns had left. It had a couple of cool points, but for the most part, it's kind of teetered off. So hopefully this gets Green Lanterns, Green Lantern or Green Lanterns back on the map. It isn't about Hal Jordan. It's about Jessica Cruz and Boz. The two new lanterns of Sector 2814, but I really enjoyed it. And then Tom King's Batman was just fantastic. The Batman title was probably by far the best book that came out last week. It's just a really kind of good teaser book for the Tom King Batman that we're going to be getting. So I highly recommend, if you can find a copy, even if it's the variant, to pick it up and read it, because it is that good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening to my little blurb there about the DC Rebirth. Next week, I'll go into the titles from this week: Action, Detective, Aquaman, Flash, and Wonder Woman. So stay tuned next week for those. And we'll get some more Rebirth titles next week. So good times. Yeah, that's it. Thank you again for watching. Please remember, like, share, and subscribe to the video. As always, leave comments down below. I like to see what people get on their pull lists and what they're reading and what they're interested in, so go ahead and leave that down in the comments. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is @BrockSager. You can find this on the channel, or you can go to conspiratorbrock.com. That's where I have the actual list of everything that I get every week and read every week. So you can go check that out there. You can listen to the current episode of the Comics Conspiracy, which is episode 264. We talk about some TV shows, namely Preacher and the big fat disappointment that it is. And we talked some April sales, because Ryan was gone, so we didn't get a chance to do the April sales, and some other stuff, which is really check it out. So if you want to listen to me on that podcast with my fellow conspirators, you can go over to www.geekbox.net and find us there. You can find us on iTunes, The Comic Conspiracy. And also to our Patreon backers, thank you very much for backing us. We do appreciate everything you do. And for as little as $1 a month, you can help the podcast out. Go to patreon.com/comic-conspiracy, the Comic Conspiracy, or if you just type Comic Conspiracy in the search bar at the homepage on Patreon, you can find us. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So a little announcement. I'm going to be moving. If you haven't noticed the black hole right over here of nothingness, that's because I've started to get my trades packed up. We got a new apartment on Friday. We got the keys, and so I've moved a couple of things over already. Hopefully be able to get at least my bookcases up behind me, so I can record a podcast next week on Tuesday, and have the nice background for you instead of like a wall or some boring stuff. So yeah. So moving this weekend. Hopefully it goes smoothly. Hopefully. Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to mention. This week, since I'm all caught up with my books, comic books, all that wonderful stuff, I actually get to read trade paperbacks and graphic novels and all that stuff. I did read, let's see, right here. Yeah, I got them right here. I did end up reading the Jeff Johns Flash books. There's 2 trades out right now, trade 1 and trade 2. Really great early John stuff with Flash. You can definitely tell it's like this was his, this was early John stuff, and he definitely was monitored by an editor and all that stuff, but really solid stuff. You can see the groundwork being laid for his future writing prowess and all that stuff, but whipped through those, really enjoyed those. So if you have not read the Flash Jeff Johns stuff, I highly recommend those trades. They're a reasonable price of, I think, $24.99. Yeah, $24.99. They're thick, they're good paper quality, but yeah, good stuff. And then I also read, let's see, where is that thing? There it is. Let's see if I can get it out of here. You gotta get your finger in the crack, and you gotta slide it out a little. But I did get a chance to read my Superior Foes of Spider-Man Omnibus. I finished this sucker on Friday. Oh my god, this stuff is good. Nick Spencer hits it out of the park with this. Just really, really great stuff. Fun, just overall a good read. I mean, if it's been a while since I sat down and read something that I hadn't read and was totally just engrossed in it and had a good time with the read, and just the characters were interesting, things were funny in it, all this wonderful stuff. So if you can get a chance, grab a copy of The Superior Foes of Spider-Man. This is the omnibus. It runs $50, but it is well worth it. There are trades of it. Let me put this back because I need to get it. Yep, there we go. There are trades of it, but I think they're out of print. But most likely, hopefully, they will be putting out like Ultimate Collections trade paperbacks. But yeah, really good stuff. Nick Spencer, again, his Ant-Man is great, and the Superior Foes of Spider-Man is just totally awesome. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.